So today's lesson is going to be about how we convert between metric and imperial measures. So we spent the previous lesson looking at how we interchange between the different units in metric. We're not going to do exactly the same today with the imperial units again, but I do want you to have an appreciation for the size of our imperial units. So I've tried to kind of put them in order from smallest to biggest. So if you look, we've got inches, then feet, then yards, then miles. So that was like equivalent to the millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers in terms of going in order from smallest to biggest. The imperial system was the system devised in Imperial Britain, and it's less kind of user friendly than the metric system, which is why we tend not to use it. But in this country, you can actually see that we use both measures with equal success. So road markings have miles on them, and when you go to the supermarket, you often buy things in metric weights, okay, or masses. And the same for capacity. We'd often buy liquid in terms of litres rather than pints and gallons. But we still need to have an appreciation and an understanding of the imperial system. So our focus for today is looking at how we convert between the two systems. Now, to be honest, you can find an app quite easily, and I confess I use an app quite a bit whenever I need to convert things that does it exactly. Today's lesson is just about being able to use an approximation. Now, again, I want to teach you a technique called ribboning, which is kind of useful, and we use it in quite a lot of different areas in mathematics. We use it in ratio, we use it in fractions a little bit, and we use it in proportional reasoning. So it's a really kind of useful technique. So I'm going to focus more on the technique of ribboning today rather than the actual lesson about conversions. Because to be honest, these facts on the board, there's lots and lots of other facts you could find, lots and lots of other measures. For example, you could have ounces to grams, you could have liquid in quarts to litres. There's lots and lots of other measures we need, but I just want you to have some understanding of some of the other measures. So if we look at the length first of all, we've got 1 inch is kind of our smallest main measure of imperial, and 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters. That's a pretty good approximation, to be honest. It's very, very close. I think it's out to like a fraction of a percent, really. We've got 1 foot is about 30 centimeters. So that's quite a nice one to remember because you've got your 12-inch ruler and you've got your 30 centimeters, and that kind of explains where the conversion gets quite difficult, because rather than with the metric system where we go up in tens and then hundreds and thousands and so on, and we use the base system of 10, the imperial system uses a base system of 12, which means that when we get to 12 inches, it becomes 1 foot, and that's what makes it so much more difficult to kind of count with and work with. Okay, and a yard is 3 feet, which is 0.9 meters. Now, some people use a conversion of 1 yard to 1 meter because it's not far off, but again, you're out by about 10% there. So if you use it for quite big measurements, you're going to have quite an inaccurate approximation. And the final conversion we've got is 5 miles is approximately 8 kilometers. Now, if you look at this one's different to the first 3. And it's different because these are what I would refer to as unit conversions. And unit conversions are really quite useful because they tell you 1 unit of one measure is approximately equal or is roughly the same as whatever value it represents. So 1 inch is approximately equal to 2.5. 1 foot is approximately equal to 30. So working with 1 unit of something is quite nice and easy because you can easily times that up. But the miles and kilometres ratio that I use is 5 and 8, which isn't particularly nice and easy because it's not a unit ratio. But you could make it into a unit ratio and this will be the first bit I'll show you about ribboning. I call it ribboning because I always think about the arrows on the sides, kind of like ribbons kind of waving down if you have to do it lots of times. So to get to 1 mile, oh, sorry, all right, it's got a bit wonky there. 1 mile. You'd have to divide that by 5. And again, it's all about the balancing when we use ribboning. So if I have to divide one side by 5, I have to divide the other side by 5. And again, this symbol here just looks like a squiggly equals. That's exactly what it is. It means approximately equal. So if you do 8 divided by 5, well, thinking about our fractions knowledge from a couple of weeks ago, there's 1 5 in 8, and then we've got 3/5 left over. So we could write that as 1 3/5, or we could say that 3/5 is the same as 6/10. So that would be 1.6 kilometres. So 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometres. I think it's 1,586, something like that. But again, 1.6 kilometres, 1,586 metres. So that's pretty close to 1.6 kilometres. So again, the reason why I don't necessarily remember it as that fact is because I like to remember things with nice whole numbers if possible. But now we've got what we call a unit ratio, because we've got one of them is roughly the same as one other. So the idea of ribboning is where you kind of do the same thing to both sides and you write a new statement out. So you'll have used it with your equivalent ratios, and you can use it with other things. So let's just say you wanted to convert 3 foot and 2 inches into, so I'll put 2 inches into centimetres. So first of all, I'm going to just write a statement about 3 foot being approximately equal to, well, 1 foot was approximately equal to 30 centimetres. So let's just put that on top, 30 centimetres. So 3 foot, if we ribbon that, we times by 3 on that side. We ribbon that, I'm making a right mess here. Sorry, times by 3. Okay, because we have to do the same thing to both sides, and that gives us 90 centimetres. So with 1 foot is 30 centimetres, 3 foot is about 90 centimetres. And I think I said 2 inches, so 2 inches is approximately, well, if 1 inch is 2.5, so let's just write that above, making a mess here, 2.5, then we have to ribbon that, timesing it by 2, times by 2, and the reason why I've times by 2 is because I want 2 inches. So what we've now got is we've got our 3 feet and our 2 inches. So we know that 3 feet, 2 inches is about 95 centimetres. So that's what we mean by ribboning. So we do the same thing to both sides. So I always think about kind of like curving down, almost like 8 if you do it more than once. So let's just have a look at another example, like with mass per se. So 2 pounds is about 1 kilogram. Again, it's not a really accurate one, but it's not far off. Okay, so I use that as a rough conversion. So if I wanted to find, say, 3.6 kilograms, so 3.6, I've written 3.5, dopey. 3.6 kilograms, then what we'd do is we'd use our 1 kilogram is approximately 2 pounds, and we'd ribbon that. So we'd say, well, what do I do to this side? I have to do to this side, and to get from 1, because there's my unit, I would times by 3.6. So I'm going to times by 3.6 on that side as well. So if I double 3.6, 2 lots of 3.6 makes 7.2 pounds. So 7.2 pounds is about 3.6 kilograms. Okay, and that is how we use our conversions. Now, there's lots and lots of conversions, like I said to you before. These are just some kind of common ones that give you a bit of familiarity and kind of to do with size. So we talk about our weight quite often in stones and pounds, so that I wanted you to just get a rough feel for what a stone is in terms of weight. It's about 6.4 kilograms. And liquid, again, just the old empirical unit is 1 pint. It's about half a litre. I think it's 568 millilitres, and 568 millilitres is just over a half. So it's not a bad approximation, but again, this is an approximate. It's a rough estimate as to where they are. Okay,